If you are a subscriber slash fan of mine, then you already know what this is. 4 years ago, I made a video being brutally honest about all of the NF types. So the INFP, the ENFP, ENFJ, INFJ. And it was supposed to be a funny video poking fun at each of these 4 types, and it ended up becoming a series that I called the Low Key Suck series, talking about how each of these types, all 16 of them eventually is what I did, low-key suck, and how they low-key suck from my opinion. After making that series, I didn't expect it to do as well as it did, especially the first video. I just thought it would, I was just kind of like doing it for fun, and a lot of people actually really liked it. A lot of people hated and liked the NT low-key suck video, and so forth. So today, I will be finally giving y'all the NF High Key Rocks. NFs High Key Rock. Today, I will finally be giving y'all the NFs High Key Rock video, and the rest of the series will be trailing off from there. So this is going to be pretty much the opposite of the Low Key Suck series, where now I'm going to be praising all of the NF types for, pretty much all the things that they deserve praise for. And today, we are going to be starting with the INFP. So the name that I gave the INFP is the Kaleidoscopic Soul Splunker. And the reason why I gave them this name is because the INFP personality type is constantly looking at their own emotions, at their own being, their own identity, their own values, all of these different parts of who they are as a person. And then they use their secondary function, extroverted intuition, to be able to almost create and embody a lot of different aspects, to be able to invite a lot of different aspects of who they actually are. So then INFPs often spend a lot of time in introspection, and this type of introspection is an embodiment which is allowing them to try on different realities and different versions of themselves. And once they try on a different part of themselves, once they try on something else, then they decide, their FI will decide, okay, do I like this? Do I not like this? Is it me? Is it not me? And then from there, they'll either discard it or they'll add it into their wardrobe. So what do I mean by this? INFPs essentially use their extroverted intuition to go out into the world, and they pretty much explore the other ways that other people are living, or they look at different cultures, they look at different theories, they look at different things that are just different from the norm, because extroverted intuition is the opposite, or the flip side of introverted sensing. And so they're looking at, okay, what is something that is not really in the norm, and how can I embody this? And so their introverted feeling dominant function already has decided, okay, this is who you are. But in order to be able to expand and learn more of who you are, we have to expose you to even more things. And so they will expose themselves to, again, different types of cultural, ways that people will be living, or different types of theories and ideas and philosophies, or, different types of just overall like mindsets. Usually it's in the philosophical realm. That's where extrovert intuition is kind of like dwelling at, and imaginative ideals. And then from there, the INFP is able to understand a lot of these abstractions, and as they try it on, then their FI will tell them, that's not really you, but it was fun trying that anyway. Throws it away. Or, that does seem actually like you, or, oh wow, this is totally you. I'm so glad that we were able to go to this country and explore this and be able to, experience it, because now this is now a new part of yourself. And that new part of themselves, they now store in their FI, SI. And so that is how oftentimes INFPs from there are able to help us as people to also understand the deepest parts of our kaleidoscopic selves. I also really love how INFPs honestly don't really care too much about other people's opinions. Sure, it could be annoying sometimes when, you're an FE Dom, such as myself, so now I'm speaking a little bit subjectively, and it's like, okay, no, but you do kind of need to care about these other people's opinions. The world doesn't revolve around you, but usually when they're, healthy and they're well-rounded, of course there has to be like balance, because there's an extent to where you should care about how other people feel about things, and there's also an extent where you should just value how you feel about things, and you shouldn't betray yourself. And INFPs, when they're at their best, they are able to also look at other people and make sure they're not going against them, but they still do not betray themselves in the process. And they teach us how also not to do the same thing. And so that's one thing that I really value and appreciate about INFPs. I remember that when Jamila and I got married, because of how events played out, then we had went from having, like, planning a huge wedding to all of a sudden having to, like, postpone it. And then we were like, okay, how about let's just do a small court wedding, and then we'll have like a bigger wedding later, and just all of this stuff. And that turned into, okay, we're gonna have a wedding with literally only 30 people. Most of them are like pretty much on like Jamila's family, and it was all on this like small boat kind of thing. So all that to say, I was not able to invite as many people that I would have liked from my African community and family of such. And I remember that I got a lot of flack for that. A lot of people were upset about it. But I remember two specific INFPs, if y'all are watching by any chance, Esther and Mandy. I will never forget how they both hit me up, and they both were not also invited to the wedding. Not necessarily that we wouldn't have wanted to invite them, but they just couldn't make it because it was limited seating. But they were not able to come to the wedding. They weren't giving invitations to the wedding. And they both individually wrote me, and they told me pretty much like, yo, you don't have to explain yourself to these people. Who cares? You did what you thought was best, and at the end of the day, we're all just going to support you. Don't let what all these people are saying about your wedding mess up, like whatever. This is your life. This is your wife. And that really put me back into perspective, because again, I was thinking too much about other people's opinions and how they felt about the whole thing, and, letting everybody have their hand on my steering wheel, and at the end of the day, there's just times where it's like, look, the best that I can do is to accommodate for you guys and try to make everyone happy, but sometimes there's just certain tough calls that I have to make, and I just hope that, I can just follow through with that, and whether you're upset with me about it or not, just hope that you can understand. And if you don't, it's too bad. And those INFPs really helped me to be able to understand that. My younger sister, shout out to you, Dante, is also an INFP, and she does this a lot with me. She's like someone who's just always like, yo, forget what they're thinking or whatever, forget this or forget that, you. And it's just always this zoning back into me. Albany, Andalus, another shout out, Caleb Ofori, who I interviewed on my channel over here, like Nia, Jamila's older sister. All three of these are such shrewd INFPs that I absolutely adore, and I'm so grateful to have in my life. And they definitely fit that archetype of being able to explore all of the different areas and, different sides of themselves. It's almost like they look into themselves and see like a broken mirror with several different shards, and they're able to like pick up each shard and make a whole world of it on their own. So that is just one big thing as to, just how great INFPs are and exactly why they rock. So next up, we have the ENFP, and I decided to call them the reality warper. So the reason why I called them the reality warper is because ENFPs are very similar to INFPs. INFPs are very similar to ENFPs, and you're going to see this also with the INFJ and the ENFJ. They are very similar as well, but so there's going to be some overlap, but to focus on the dominant function, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to highlight that. And when it comes to the ENFP, they pretty much do the same thing that the INFPs do, but they more frequently distort the external reality. They're using extrovert intuition as a dominant function. So that same thing the INFP is doing to go out there and start picking up from different cultures and different philosophies and ideas and all of these different other things, to be able to further build and understand who they are. That's what the ENFP is doing as well, and then they're using that knowledge to be able to help us to better understand ourselves. But the reason why, once again, I call them the reality warpers is because when you think of ENFPs such as like Leslie from Bridge to Terabithia, she kind of did a very similar thing to what Tommy Pickles, INFP from Rugrats, did, where these NFPs are able to create a whole world around them that will just absolutely encapsulate you, and their imaginations are able to, in a way, bring about a whole bunch of creativity and wonder and optimism and just ways of life that you might have never considered before, and bringing magic. It's almost like an alchemy, bringing magic to any situation. And even when you look at The Greatest Showman, who also I believe was an ENFP, the movie that Hugh Jackman played in, just looking at life with wonder and then being able to kind of create a whole new world from this, reality, which, looking at Aladdin, I believe that he was also potentially an ENFP. And this is just a skill that ENFPs tend to have. They tend to have that stereotypical Disney-like kind of nature of making whoever they're with, whether it be romantically or just friendship-wise or whichever, just a magical moment. And not even just a magical moment, but like enshrouding them in a magical world, Again, going back to the INFP, we see how Wanda from WandaVision, she did this. She created a whole entire world where it was pretty much serving her. For ENFPs, often it's doing this, but for other people. So they create a whole world where they're pretty much like serving other people in a way, or they're having like their loved ones in a way enjoy what they have going on. And so that is something that I personally really value from the ENFP, and I think that it's a superpower of theirs. It's really impressive. ENFPs also excel at championing ideas or championing for certain values. So once again, like the INFP, ENFPs tend to have very strong FI values, and so from seeking out all of these different experiences, they too are now building more of who they are, but only instead of having already who they are and then going out to build and invest more into it like the INFP does, it's the reverse, where they kind of go out first to find all these philosophical and cultural different elements of things, and then they come back and then they assess it with their FI to build who they are from there. Okay, which one is me? Who am I, to be exact? And they come to a point where they are no longer just exploring all the time, but now they're beginning to have an anchor for who they actually might be. But ENFPs, like I said, when they build that anchor, then they're able to also champion certain values. They start to figure out like what they're okay with and what they're not okay with, what they want to advocate for and what they may not want to advocate for. And they can make very impressive advocates. When I think about some powerful ENFP examples, I think about Samantha White from the show Dear White People, who had a whole radio dedicated to just expressing her opinions and advocating on the behalf of African American people, so that white people could better understand them and everything. And then also I think of Nola Darling, who went through this whole entire series on the show She's Gotta Have It, the Netflix series, where she pretty much had a very rough journey, trying out all of these different again, like lifestyles, ways of living, and then being able to finally come and understand herself more throughout this whole entire process. And because of this exact journey that ENFPs often take, again, they're able to help other people to be able to understand the same thing, and they can champion certain things, because ENFPs, for this reason, tend to actually not be very judgmental. If any case, the ENFPs that allow themselves to, pretty much explore more and be able to have this much of an openness, they now see the wide variety of what humans are capable of, and they do not really nothing really surprises them, because they've already considered a lot, and they become so good at reading certain people's motivations that at the end of the day, it's like they can assume the best about people. And even when people may go down a path that's more taboo, or that's, just kind of not what a lot of other people may have expected, the ENFP is able to advocate and understand, okay, no, I think that, this person is still who they are at the core. And if anything, they can relate because they themselves have been through several different journeys, and they've seen different elements and parts of themselves to be able to now help them to be able to understand other people and what they might be going through, even if it's in a different way. So I guess some quick ENFP shout outs that I just have to do is Heidi Prieb. She's an amazing ENFP, and completely she's just stellar. That's just, it is what it is, point blank. Also Alexa from YouTube, shout out to you if you're watching this. And Ali, shout out to you as well. Alana, shout out to you. Tyreek, shout out to you as well. Just some great examples of ENFPs that I have witnessed in my life, and I've been able to also observe. Sarah Dunn, shout out to you, and Andy especially. If y'all are watching this, again, thank y'all for being people that I've been able to just watch and question and observe, and so many others that come to mind. And ENFPs, definitely high key rock. Next up, we have the INFJ, and I called them the clairvoyant therapist. So INFJs pretty much use their introverted intuition dominant function to be able to understand the patterns of their own mind, and then they use that idea, or that understanding of the patterns of their own mind, to be able to now understand the patterns of other people's minds. Then they use their FE to be able to further help and aid those people. And so because INFJs do this, then they tend to also have a really good talent of being able to future pace, or at the very least get into the people's heads and other people's minds. So they're always running simulations of what is most likely going to happen, especially when it comes into a relationship dynamic or relational dynamic, or where society is headed. And they can do this a lot of times in also, one-on-one therapy sessions. And so a lot of INFJs, as I'm sure that many of us already know, are the types to have people randomly come to them and just want to share everything on their hearts, because they have this kind of energy that's somewhat inviting, or at least lets a person know that, hey, I feel like I can tell you these things, and not only will you probably not judge me for it, but you'll probably provide some good insight. And INFJs are definitely praised for their insight, and willfully so. Willfully, is that a word? Either way, that's what I'm going to go with. Willfully so. INFJs often make really great supporters, and they do really well with deconstruction of society, because even though they have that NI that's hovering above society and everything, and seeing everybody's mind in a certain way, and then using that FE to be able to help in the ways that they can with, reconstructing and remodeling and rebuilding society. They're also deconstructing it with that TI tertiary function. And so you can look at Plato, for example, who wrote a whole bunch of books and philosophies. He's actually one of the most popular philosophers out there. I believe that he was an INFJ. And same with even Carl Jung, who I also believe was an INFJ. And both of these people have helped humanity with their philosophical writings. And, even though their content might be a little bit heavier and abstract to be able to understand, it was their attempt to be able to not only understand human society as a whole, but then also through their writing, they were trying to influence human society to be able to operate at a better and higher frequency. And so this is something that I believe INFJs just really excel at. And of course, if I wanted to just give some quick shout outs and praise to some of the INFJs in my life, I definitely want to shout out first and foremost my best man, David Asiming. Once again, congratulations on that 100K. Keep on climbing, man. I also want to shout out Nicole. I also want to shout out Andrea. I want to shout out Jessany. And welcome to the Knife Show, everyone, where we dissect the human psyche and society. My name is Denzel Mensah. I'm an ENFJ.
And I'm an INFJ.
My name is Denzel Mensah. I'm an ENFJ.
And my name is Joyce. Wait, there's phlegm in my throat. I can kind of... You're right, this part is hard. There's so many things to memorize.
And thanks for tuning into the Knife Show. And until next time, stay sharp.
Stay sharp.
I think it was obvious I was looking over there. So
it was very obvious. It's like when you go to a classroom presentation and like the kid is like clearly looking at the
These are just right off the dome that I'm just gonna throw out there. But again, seriously, y'all, I just really appreciate you. The world appreciates y'all INFJs, and keep on doing what you're doing out there. Hello?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm fine. How is Jamila?
She's doing well. She's doing well.
Were you at work?
No, not technically.
No, yes.
No, I was recording a video. Do you want to say hi?
Do I want to say hi?
Yeah, I was just about to talk about your personality type.
Oh, okay. Say hi. How do I say hi?
I mean, I guess you can just say hi. Hey, everyone, this is my father. He's an ENFJ, one of the global guardian angels. So, yeah, you can just say hi, Mufasa.
So, we thank God.
Yeah.
So, say hi to Jamila for me. I'll let you record it to you so that we can talk another time.
Yeah, for sure. No problem. Thanks for checking in.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Love you too. Now, last but not least, we'll be talking about the ENFJ. I called the ENFJ the Global Guardian Angel. And the reason why I called them that is actually, you may have probably already saw from my recent interview on Geek Psychology with Matt Sherman, where Matt asked me to describe the ENFJ type or explain the ENFJ type. And that was one of the first titles that came into my head. And the reason being is because the ENFJ is constantly looking at society and molding it. A lot of times the ENFJs are seen to be conforming, when in actuality, a very healthy or matured ENFJ, they're the ones who are actually creating the cultural norms for society. And not necessarily like, in a traditional sense, but they're more of observing how society operating and where is it lacking and how can we better operate and, interact as human beings. And so the ENFJ is staring at this first from a one-to-one point of view, and then it evolves into groups, and then it evolves into communities, and then it evolves into whole cultures and then societies. And again, like I said in that interview, this is the same exact way that, even Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela, who I believe were both ENFJs, they were able to bring different races, like the black and white people, to try to come together. And they had this dream and this vision for the world, and they advocated for that as well, because what they really ultimately wanted was group harmony. and essentially some sort of like form of world peace. And so that is the ENFJ's main thing and their main focus. They're constantly observing relationships between people and seeing, okay, what's going to make this relationship better? What does this relationship lack? How can we further improve this relationship? And because the ENFJs have that auxiliary introverted intuition, then they allow themselves to be able to hop into the minds of other people, and then that amplifies their FE. And so now it's not just really like stuck in one kind of area, but it's like going very far. And they're using that extroverted sensing, that tertiary function, to be able to get into action and to be able to like, hold rallies or, like do marches. ENFJs usually prefer to like go into like the coaching or to like teach of some sort, as opposed to like the more heavier stuff like how Plato did with writing, because that's more of the TI heavy kind of things, which is the ENFJ's inferior function. So it's not that, ENFJs can't write, but it's more that they much more prefer being immersed and being that action-oriented type of person, or being like face-to-face with the person. Whereas the INFJ, for example, would prefer to maybe keep it one-on-one, or to like actually write and just kind of be the observer that just, says everything, but it's not always as immersed. But again, there is some overlap. Either way, the ENFJ is the global guardian angel, because they are the type that is looking at the whole world the best they possibly can, and they're seeing all the patterns of how people are interacting, what is wrong with their interactions, what is right with their interactions according to their own subjective, ideas of how we should be interacting with each other. And then they're pretty much building cases off of that to be able to further help society move forward and having a more harmonious and more peaceful, a more diplomatic, and less tolerable of each other kind of thing, despite whatever differences that we might have. I believe that Professor Xavier from the X-Men movies, not the show, I believe the show version is INFJ, but from the X-Men movies, I believe that Professor Xavier is an ENFJ, and he's doing this in quite a perfect, like he's exemplifying this in a very perfect way, where he is watching how humans are interacting, and then he's advocating for the mutants as well, and he's always trying to find a diplomatic way to be able to help the mutants to be able to further prove themselves to the humans and even protect them, and that way he can keep the humans from also attacking them. And he would just much rather prefer peace than to have some kind of strife between them, as opposed to maybe Magneto, who just believes otherwise, in more violent techniques. And so I think that, just some quick shout outs that I wanted to just throw out there. Emrys, first of all, I love you, man, so much. Just wanted to shout out to you as well. Jacob, wanted to give you a shout out. Also, Stefania, big shout out to you. You're definitely just my favorite person, you know what I mean? Also wanted to shout out my father. Just got off the phone with him as I was recording this video. He's definitely had a big influence on my life, so that's for sure. Those are just some of the ENFJs that I had off the top of my head, but that is why I believe that the ENFJ is best suited as the global guardian angel, and why they high key rock. So, thank y'all for taking the time to watch this video. If you haven't seen the NFs Low Key Suck video, definitely go and check that out. Try not to be too offended. It's all halfway jokes. It's all done to, in jest. If the shoe doesn't fit, then don't wear it. But if the shoe does fit, well, then go ahead and wear it. But yeah, leave me any comments, questions, concerns. Let me know what y'all think about, any of the things that I said. Maybe some things that you might even want to add on about your own type, or, about another type here, one of the other NF types. And of course, the other types will be coming out soon, and so just be ready for that. I believe the SP High Key Rock video series is up next in line, and then the NT and then potentially the SJs. We'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, I guess that's all, and